New comic book day is speeding towards us. Let's talk about the books that are on my pull list. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and this is The Pull List. It's a weekly video series where I go through the books coming out on this new comic book day. This time we're looking at Wednesday, July 5th, and we're going to talk about the books that are on my pull list. I'll tell you what's on the chopping block, what's on the maybe list, what books I'm going to skip entirely, and I'm excited to do that. Now, this week is actually a lighter week for me. In fact, the next 2 months are going to be a little bit lighter for me, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But first, we got to talk about the book that I am most excited to read this week, and that is XMen, issue number 24, written by Gerry Duggan. Ever since like the whole Hickman era ended, although we were still in the Krakoa era, I've been kind of up and down on X-Men stuff. But what has been like a sort of, I don't know, underrated book in my opinion is Gerry Duggan's X-Men. Each issue feels fairly self-contained, although in the last 3 or 4, we've been slowly building this story. It's Orchis versus the Mutants, and in very meaningful ways because we're building toward the fall of X and Man. It's been exciting. It has been exciting. If you're looking for action-packed comics, you've got them in X-Men. Now, the whole, Dawn of the Brood or Fighting of the Brood something, that was, kind of iffy for me as far as the premise, but it was still action-packed, great, fun comics with amazing art. And we'll be getting more of that here, but last 2 issues, we have been slowly building. We're seeing Sentinels in use. We're seeing Orchis, and we're seeing mutants basically are a part of a disinformation campaign, a misinformation campaign. I don't know what they call it in politics, nor in the mutant or Marvel Comics world. But the point is, in order to sort of spread negative sentiment about the mutants, they have been framing the mutants for certain actions, co-opting certain tools that the mutants have been using for years. And it's just been a very interesting ride as we speed toward the fall of X. I've been really looking forward to how the fall of X is going to go. And X-Men is the next chapter of that. So issue 24 out this week with a cover price of $3.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And since we're talking about Marvel Comics, let's go ahead with the rest of the Marvel books on my list. Continuing with Fantastic Four, issue number 9. Fantastic Four by Ryan North. Won't even lie to you. The last issue I read was issue 6, because issue 7 was a milestone issue. It was a little bit longer, and I kind of forgot to read it. And then all of a sudden, we're 2 issues later. So I got some binge reading to do of Fantastic Four. I was loving it before the anniversary issue, so hopefully I continue to love it. I really gotta stop getting behind on comics like this. But anyway, Fantastic Four issue 9. It's got a cover price of $3.99. I'm grabbing the Alex Ross cover A. And the last book on the Marvel pull list this week is X-Men Before the Fall, Sinister Four, issue number 1. It's a one-shot. I want to say this is the last, maybe it's the second to last one-shot. They're doing 4 one-shots to kind of set up the Fall of X event and just what the major players are, the major tent poles. I mean, we've seen the return of the horticulture. We've seen all kinds of stuff going on. We're bringing a lot of things full circle and presumably bringing this Krakoa era to an end this fall. I'm very excited to see how that all goes. So gotta grab these one-shots. Now, this features the Sinister Four, which if you read the Sins of Sinister event, you know who those are. And I officially have to read the Sins of Sinister event now, though I've been avoiding it like the plague. So there we go. That one's got a cover price of $4.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And that's it for the Marvel books on my pull list. If I stick to the list, those will cost me $13 this week, which is not bad. Not bad at all. Now, let's move on to the DC Comics on my pull list. All right, this is a first. There are 0 DC Comics on my pull list this week. Now, there are a couple books on the maybe list. The first book that's on the maybe list is Steelworks number 2. I did not read Steelworks number 1. I heard it was not all that great. So I'm going to go ahead and read that. It should be out on DC Universe Infinite tomorrow. And so I'll read issue number 1 when it hits DC Infinite on Tuesday, and I'll decide if I want to, read issue 2. Chances are I'm just going to drop it or, not pick it up and leave that as a digital only book that I read whenever it becomes available under my subscription that I've paid for, even though I keep paying for comics. I got to get my money's worth on this subscription. So probably not picking up that one. The other book that's on the maybe list, and the reason the DC Comics pull list is so light, is that DC is kicking off the Night Terrors event this week. Joshua Williamson is heading up this event that is basically taking over every book on the DC Comics publishing line. Well, most books, and adding a bunch of books that we didn't have. Like there's a Ravager book, and I don't know, name a DC Comics character, and they've probably got 2 Night Terrors issues coming out. Basically, all these DC characters are getting transported into some kind of nightmare dimension. And if you like horror comics, this event is designed to cater to you. And I can't even lie, like just in the greater comic book industry, horror books have been the bee's knees, if you will. I mean, James Tynion has made his whole career on horror comics, and here DC comes all late to try to capitalize on the horror comics crowd. I'm not a member of the horror comics crowd, so I am most likely going to skip the Night Terrors event entirely. If I decide to make an exception, it will be for the so-called main event. And I believe that's just 2 one-shots. And that starts with Night Terrors First Blood #1, which comes out tomorrow. But that one's got a cover price of $5.99. And that just seems like a lot to pay for a book when I know I'm not particularly interested in the premise. I'm sure there will be some great art that comes out of it. Horror comics just aren't my thing. I feel like I've said that enough today. And so what I'm going to attempt to do is just let that event pass me by and use all the free space on the pull list, 1, to get caught up, just with my reading pile, and 2, to save some cash, maybe buy something cool, buy an omnibus or something that I wouldn't have been able to buy otherwise because I would have had like 18 DC comics on the pull list. Anyway, that's a big maybe as well, but from my perspective, it looks like I'm not grabbing either of those. And so my DC Comics total for the first time like ever is 0. Now let's move on. Well, actually, we're going to skip on over to the indies. So let's go ahead and we'll start with Disney Villains Maleficent, issue number 3. So Disney Villains Maleficent, you might remember, was on my maybe list 2 months ago. I decided to grab issue 1 just on a whim, and I really loved it. It's written and drawn by Sue Lee, and the art really drives the story. She does such amazing work with ink and brush. And I believe she colors it as well, but for me, it's the brush work that is just so beautiful. I hope this gets collected into some sort of oversized format so that you guys can see the texture on the brush strokes. But in case it's not, in case it doesn't get collected at all, I'm just picking up this series in singles. Maleficent, issue number 3, has got a cover price of $3.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And the next book on the indie list this week, although I can't even lie, none of this is really indie. This is all like super licensed work that we're all familiar with from like the freaking biggest content companies in the world. But anyway, next up, also from Dynamite, is Gargoyles, issue number 7. I've kind of dropped out of Gargoyles, but I keep picking it up because Dynamite seems to be slow to collect these things. Although Greg Weisman clearly wants there to be like a huge Gargoyles cinematic universe in the comics. Gargoyles comic-matic universe? We'll workshop a title. But anyway, so I've been picking it up, and I'm honestly just been picking it up on the strength of all the other Disney comics. Gargoyles has consistently been like the for me, mostly because I'm just not as familiar with the lore as I am, say, Darkwing Duck. Or, well, I'm not really as familiar with Maleficent. Maleficent is just a beautiful book to look at. And Gargoyles kind of always hits me right in the middle. Like I'm sort of nostalgic on it, but also just sort of like, okay, I'm playing from behind. I need to play catch up. I need to go watch more of the series so I can appreciate more of what I'm looking at. The art's good. The storytelling is fine. But because I'm not a big Gargoyles fan, it just doesn't hit me the same. And a lot of the reason I buy it is FOMO's not really the word. It's just me being an irrational customer. Gargoyles, issue 7. I love the cover, by the way. There's a couple of covers I like from this book. One of them being by Lucio Perillo. Just dropped my remote. But anyway, love that cover. Issue 7 is out with a price of $3.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And the next book on the indie list this week is, finally, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Armageddon game, issue number 8. The final issue of the Armageddon game event. If you remember, the Armageddon game event was teased way back over a year ago in the Free Comic Book Day 2022 special. And I was like, you know what? Tom Waltz coming back to the Ninja Turtles, injecting some action and some fast-paced storytelling. I'm here for it. It's only an 8-issue event. Except it wasn't just an 8-issue event, because we had like this main event, we had like 2 tie-in series, and all the issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles between a year ago and today were also a part of the Armageddon game. The Armageddon game hardcover is going to be insanely huge. In fact, it's probably going to be volume 17 of the IDW collection of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, those hardcovers, if you're looking out for those. Ironically, the setup for the Armageddon game kind of shares a lot with the setup for the Fall of X, basically the Ninja Turtles being framed by other mutants and people that are like co-opting the mutagen to make their own little things and spread disinformation about Mutant Town and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's one aspect of it anyway. I'd have to read the book to find out the rest, as will you. But anyway, the Armageddon game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Armageddon game, issue number 8. It's got a cover price of $5.99. It's the final issue of the event, and I could probably drop Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from since now. $5.99. I'm grabbing cover A. And the last book on the indie pull list this week is The Walking Dead Deluxe, issue 66. I'm buying The Walking Dead Deluxe so I can make a big custom hardcover and be among the first to own The Walking Dead in color in a hardcover. And it's going to be an expensive project. Houchin, was it Houchin? Houchin just raised their prices for custom binds. And yeah, like you're going to spend almost $100 to custom bind a bunch of books together, on top of the fact that you paid $3.99 for each issue of the book. So let's say you got 20 issues. That's 4 times 20. That's $80. And then you spend another $100 binding it, getting it bound and shipped to you. Your custom hardcover is now $200. And then by the time you do all that and go through the process and you wait for it to come in the mail, then Skybound is going to be like, hey, you know what? You guys liked The Walking Dead so much that we're going to go back on our word and print a custom hardcover. And you know what'll be great? You won't have those stupid cardboard covers, cardstock covers, all in the middle of your books, messing up the way you turn your pages. And then I'll be the one with egg on my face. But until then, hey, it's a fun project to think about, because Robert Kirkman claims they will never collect The Walking Dead Deluxe in any other format except these single issues. So that's that. Cover price $3.99. I'm getting the cover A by David Finch. And that is the last book on the indie pull list. And if I stick to the list, my indie books this week will cost me just $18 for a grand total, which is nearly $20 under budget, of $31 this week. Listen, this is going to be the summer of savings. Thank you, DC, for co-opting the entire line and interrupting everything that was amazing about Dawn of DC for a bunch of books that I don't want to buy, and saving me some money, because I would have been the impulsive, compulsive buyer had you not forced my hand. So, saving some money this week. and all summer long. What's on you guys' pull list this week? As you can see, we're all purpled out, Purple Heart Army over here from my man Skip and Tosh. And yeah, but what's on your pull list? It's funny. I'm the indie section is obviously dedicated to my man Kurt, but I don't have any indies that he would most likely have read. Like, these are all huge licensed characters, perhaps with the exception of The Walking Dead, but even that had a TV show. So I'm fake indie over here. But hey, let me know what's in your pull list down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one real soon. Huge shout out to the people that made it happen. By the way, they're scrolling up on the screen now. Huge thanks to you, channel family. All right. I got to get used to how I sign off because I forgot how to do it. I don't know what you're reading this week, but hopefully it's something dope. Peace.